market, in the medium term at least, looks much stronger than it has done for a while. And I think there are real grounds for cautious optimism.
I believe the retail industry is arguably in the eye of a perfect storm.
Technically, it's a high-performing workplace, but sometimes it gets referred to as activity-based working. And that's really understanding that you need the right space for the right activity.
It feels to me that the real estate fund management industry is profoundly bad at responding to change.
But when you've had decades of success, it changes you. It makes you think in terms of entitlements instead of accomplishments. It makes you have everything to lose and less agile.
And we should remember, above all, that in economics, growth is the natural order of things because it is a human desire to innovate, to make two blades of grass grow where one grew before.
It does look like there might be a supply squeeze in 2014, 2015, and I think people are preparing for that now. In central London, that new confidence, the new decision to take space, and the lack of supply as well, especially the grade A supply, is starting to affect rents. And we've seen both West End and City rents drift upwards over the past few quarters. If you look at what's happened to prime yields in central London, you can see that there has been some downward pressure. This is partly to do with the sheer weight of international money coming into London, the sheer competition for product, but I think it's also a recognition that the economy and the fundamentals of the occupier market, which have been the weakness for London for so long, is really starting to improve.
The advent of mobile technology will accelerate the rate of change dramatically. 10 years ago, we were probably investing 80–85% of our annual capital into shops. Now that's dropped to probably about 40%. From a property point of view, we are definitely seeing a polarization from our customers' point of view towards larger, dominant centres, whether they're big out-of-town regional shopping centres or the major towns or cities.
We're looking at actually reducing the impact on that workforce, and that comes down to all sorts of elements, including the toxins we normally put into the air as part of the construction process. So daylight's really important, absolutely amazing, in the sense that actually it encourages productivity and encourages activity. Hoteling or flexi-desking will actually get you down by about a third. You can actually get down by 45%, maybe even 50% if you're looking at activity-based working. And yet productivity is still going up. You're not cramming people into a small space.
The most significant mandate L&G has ever won in property is NEST, the National Employment Savings Trust, which we won earlier in the year. And the single thing that differentiated us from everyone else that pitched for that mandate was our understanding of and treatment of sustainability. And things like hospital, healthcare, alternatives are obviously what real estate fund managers should be looking at more. Allocation to other real estate is somewhere just north of 5%. We're getting towards 20%, and actually we're not finished. We need to do more of that. The thing that concerns me the most about the new sectors is that unless you've really got a depth of knowledge, then you're clearly taking some risks with dealing with the unknown.
So sometimes we think of the world as this place where everything has been invented, it can only be divided up. That's how we talk in terms of globalization in business very often, when we use the concept of the market share, which is actually quite ridiculous because it implies there's one market and all we can do is divide it up in different slices of the pie. My point here is that there's another direction of evolution, not just horizontal, but vertical, where previously impossible things might become a reality. Then it's possibly one of the most important vertical shifts. The ability to take what was once expensive and exclusive and only for big companies and make it available for everyone. People today are digilog. They are constantly switched on, able to reach out in terms of knowledge, information on pricing in retail environments. It's going to be very tough for incumbents going forward, because there will be all these amateurs who don't know that they can't do a certain thing, so they try, and they might just end up succeeding.
Now, we don't talk about change programs, we just change all the time. It's about focusing on income and income flow rather than lease length and some of the more traditional KPIs that everyone's fixated about.
And it's okay to challenge. It's okay to say to a client or a customer, are you sure you really want that? Actually, we've seen other options where this has worked. Could this actually be done differently? Why don't you think about that and sort of educate and train? I think that's part of our role as developers.
If there's a lot of people who listen to each other who are from the same sort of background, then you do get inevitably too little change, too little challenge. So, I mean, the solution to it is for the industry to overtly seek to be more diverse.
I think we are all experiencing more diversity in our lives. The nature of business has changed. It's much more international than it used to be.
Know what you're good at and stick to what you're good at and do more of what you're good at.
You're not building a building, you're building somewhere for an end user to use. Actually, you should be focusing on that person, not the actual building. Actually, not just building houses, we're trying to come up with the concept of building a community.
In my experience, when you do give people opportunity and you ask them to do something which is a stretch, most people respond very, very positively to that. So it needs a bit of courage as well on the part of leadership to make sure you do give those opportunities to people.
I was asked, how did the recession, which I presided over, I hesitate to call it the Lamont recession, compare with the present recession? Well, all I can say is I think this one is very much worse. This has been a much worse crisis, and of course it is the first global financial crisis. That recessions, when they are caused by banking crises, tend to last much longer than the normal boom and bust type of crisis that Gordon Brown thought he'd abolished. But in nursing the economy back to health, both by maintaining low interest rates and flooding the system with money, I think we have to be very careful that we don't lay the seeds of the next crisis. That, to me, is a real possible danger. That by maintaining asset prices, you would stimulate confidence and you would stimulate consumer demand. But I would argue that if QE is only delivering an anemic recovery, and that's how the Americans see it after 5 years, is it really right to go on? We should remember, above all, that in economics, growth is a natural order of things because it is a human desire to innovate, to make two blades of grass grow where one grew before.